Welcome to the Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching YouTube channel. In today's video, I have a special guest presentation by Rob Odat. He is the founder of his social media channels at Rob Odat on Instagram, at Rob Odat on YouTube, and he covers predominantly gambling addiction. That's something that we don't talk a lot about on our channel, if ever I've spoken about it. But Rob, one of the reasons why I'm excited to have you on is because there's a lot of crossover between cannabis use and alcohol use and nicotine use and gambling, especially today with the rise of online sports betting and the ease of access to gambling. A lot of times what I'll see is someone, they quit smoking weed and they're like, yeah, I haven't been smoking, but I've been finding my high in online gambling now, or I've been finding my rush in doing that. And I'm always like, oh, no, that can go bad really, really quickly too. So Rob, I figured it'd be good to have you on. And what I wanted to start with is, can you tell me a little bit about your story when it comes to gambling, how you got into gambling, and then we'll kind of bring it up to speed with where you're at today.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, Dr. Frank. So, I got started with gambling when I was 18 years old with daily fantasy sports. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's like if you took a fantasy football season and condensed it into one night or just a few games. So, I grew up in the Philly area and we love our sports teams here. Basically, when I figured out that I could make money gambling on sports, it was a no brainer that I was going to start doing it because every family event, every hangout with my friends was centered around watching some kind of game. So, this idea that I could take what I was already doing and I loved to do, which was watch sports and make money doing it, it was too good of an offer to pass up. And very quickly, I realized that it indeed was too good to be true because I was immediately hooked to regular sports betting as well. Pretty much from the start, when I was 18 years old, I just wanted the results to happen faster, and waiting an entire night became too slow very quickly. And I started making regular sports bets, and somehow I closed my eyes, and 6 years later, I'm deathly addicted to gambling. I was able to tell how much money I had won or lost on a spin of an online slot machine just based on the sound that was playing through my headphones if I was out walking around. I was gambling 6 to 8 hours a day, and over that 6 year period, I found myself in debt 6 different times to the point where I had to work second jobs just to pay it down. Things were really bad, and it wasn't just the money. I was completely detached from everyone around me, and all I cared about was making my next bet. It wasn't even logical at a certain point. All of that really came to a head on November the 12th of 2022, where in one 12-hour session at a casino, I created enough debt that it would take me 6 months to pay off, working 70-hour weeks. And that's where I drew a line in the sand, and I said something had to change. And I started going to meetings, got myself a therapist, started working the steps, and also making the content that I create now, which we'll dive into probably a little bit later. All these things together have led to me being clean from gambling since that day in November 22. And now I try to help other people avoid making the same mistakes that I did.
That's fascinating. One of the things that you say that appeals to me, because I often get this with weed, a lot of people are like, oh, it's just cannabis addiction. It can't be that bad. And one of the things that I say is, look, the consequences of addiction across the board actually look pretty similar from substance to substance, right? So tell me this. It sounds like gambling definitely impacted your financial health, but did it also have impact on, let's say, relationships? Did it have any impact on your physical health? Did it have impact on other aspects of your life outside of just losing money?
Yeah, absolutely. So, to start off, the effects on relationships and friendships were really apparent because I didn't care about what anyone else was going through because I always thought my problems were worse or they took precedent. So, if I was in, chaos mode trying to find money because I just overdrafted a bank account, I really wasn't going to care about my girlfriend's bad day at school, which accumulated over time led to relationships and friendships deteriorating. It wasn't so much that they were like, ew, he's a gambler, but I was just never really there with them when I was there with them. I was always preoccupied with gambling, thinking about how I could get my next bet or trying to come up with money to cover mistakes that I had just made. Then when it came to health, I wasn't focused on my health in any way. I still maintained like a decent schedule going to the gym, but when I would go to the gym, I'd spend half the time playing slots on the bench. And if I did end up eating healthy, it was just because maybe I came off a good win or I was in a good mood. Everything came secondary to gambling, which caused me to be overweight, anxious, tired out all the time, stressed out all the time, and just overall living a bad quality of life.
Now, it sounds like all of those factors combined led to that night. I think you said it was 12 hours in a casino and you created a ton of debt. And, I think a lot of people would look at that and say, okay, that's a rock bottom. Had you
Mhm.
tried quitting prior to hitting that rock bottom, or was that the first time you really said, okay, I have to stop, I have to make a change?
Yeah, I was in recovery for about 8 months up until that point, actually, in November. And what was the real difference between how I'm keeping myself away from it now versus before was that while I was pursuing recovery, my entire life, like my worth that I perceived myself to have, was determined by the number of days that I hadn't gambled. And if you ever try to track like the success of your life based on not doing something, eventually it gets stale, it gets repetitive, and you lose the value of what you're even doing. So this time around, I've really focused on building meaning in my life separate to gambling. And without the content that I create, I think I would have gone back to it.
So, okay. It sounds like after going through that, you went through a traditional, I guess I'll say traditional, more traditional path of recovery. Did you go to a rehab center to stop? Were you in inpatient therapy for it? Or did you do all of this outpatient? Did you stop on your own? Like, what did quitting actually look like for you?
Yeah, so I never did go to an inpatient facility or a rehab. It was rather that I went to 12 step and I went and saw a therapist. But my therapist, he was a great therapist, but what we really lacked was an understanding, I think. He couldn't really fill in the blanks of what I was saying because he just didn't gamble before. So to me, it made me feel a little bit isolated in the process. But that's why I really respect people that are out there doing research and learning about gambling addiction that are also working in the substance use field because there's a ton of crossover, as you mentioned in the intro.
Yeah, it's all about chasing the dopamine, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever that next high is. Which brings me to another question too. When you first stopped, did you find yourself reaching for anything outside of gambling to try and get that rush that was maybe not so healthy? I mean, I know you
Mhm.
talked about, which I'm big on my channel. It sounds like building this aspect of your business and helping others quit became part of your recovery, which it was for me as well too. But did you ever have a point in there where you were like, okay, I'm done gambling, but maybe you started to lean towards alcohol or something else that could potentially be destructive, or no, did you stay pretty much on the path of self-improvement when you quit, and along those lines?
Yeah, it wasn't so clean cut as that. I definitely found myself drinking more. Now, I will say that when I was doing more drinking or, going to parties with friends during the interim between quitting gambling and, really finding my stride in recovery, I never felt the same way about alcohol that I felt about gambling, but I was using the alcohol to avoid dealing with how I was feeling about the gambling. So I always felt like I had a hole in my life because I took something that I loved to do and just yanked it out. And I filled it with unhealthy habits. I never felt like I gained another addiction, but I was definitely on the borderline of going down that path.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. I see it all the time, and I myself experienced something similar when I was trying to stop various things. Now, fast forward, here you are later. You run some pretty large social media channels. Again, your name at Rob Odat, Instagram and YouTube, helping people quit. So, what made you decide to get into the space of helping others quit gambling? Why not just quit? Move on, not talk about it again and be done with it. What made you say, look, I want to enter this space and actually be part of helping people stop?
Yeah. So I can answer it with a story and with a quote, I guess you could call it a quote. The story is that when I had my relapse in November of 2022, I was miserable and I started going back to my meetings, but I was really going through a tough time mentally. Around the same time, a guy who was closest in age to me, so stereotype of those meetings is everyone's pretty old, It's pretty true because the next closest guy in age to me was in his late 30s. He was about 10, 15 years older. But after that, the next closest was like a 80-year-old guy, which it is what it is. But basically, he stopped showing up, the younger guy. And I thought, like, let me give him a call, see what's going on. And he had a falling out with his girlfriend, break up, went back to gambling to deal with the emotions. And I said, listen, man, I just did that last week and it ended terribly for me. I'm about to go and work again because I was working 70 hours. And I said, you don't want to do that to yourself. Something that I said clicked with him, and he decided to come back to the meetings. And through some more ups and downs, he just about a month and a half, 2 months ago, got his 1 year clean. And it was the first time that I did something in a long time that wasn't about myself. And it actually gave me a sense of reward, a sense of pleasure in a way that I hadn't experienced in a very long time. And I thought to myself, I want to feel that again. I want to help someone going through the same thing as me again. And I recorded a video, put it on YouTube. Now, to answer with the quote, it's step 12. It's to try to help other people who are going through the same thing that we just went through. And that's basically the identity of my channel. It's to help you avoid making the same mistakes that I did.
And what do you think is the best way or the first step to helping someone who might be struggling? So someone's struggling right now with gambling, watching this presumably.
Mm.
What's one thing that they could do to kickstart their journey when it comes to maybe quitting gambling?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great question because with gambling addiction, the resources don't seem to be as apparent as they are for substance use addictions. I saw a stat, it was like 338 times more funding for substance use than gambling addiction. And that's because, more people have substance use problems. But they're so underfunded on the gambling side that people don't know where to go, which is why I'm really happy you asked that question. The first thing that you need to do, other than accepting that you are ready to quit or you want to quit, is find a community because there's a ton of value in working on yourself. There's a ton of value in finding a therapist to work with as well if you want to go down that path. But without the focus group, so to speak, of people who are going through the same thing as you, it can feel pretty isolating to be a problem gambler. And for a really long time, I thought I was the only gambling addict on earth. So the very first thing that you should do if you're looking to stop is find a meeting near you. And as cliche as that is, you will walk in there, you will hear someone say something in that group that you yourself have been thinking you're crazy for thinking, and it will be the start of your recovery.
That's a phenomenal response. I think that makes a lot of sense too. They've done a lot of studies as well on the power of community and just the power of community when it comes to helping people quit substances across the board. And it's funny that you say gambling is so underfunded because now I can't turn on the radio or the TV without seeing ads or influencers or celebrities or sports figures promoting gambling, which is wild. So I think you're going to be in a rapidly growing space when
I,
it comes to gambling addiction recovery.
I totally agree. And you know what I would love to see would be a chart of ad spend on gambling ads versus ad spend on problem gambling awareness because one's going to be an exponential graph and one's going to be flat.
You are 100% right on that. That I could guarantee that would be a very interesting chart to see. I bet they're gonna have studies come out on that sometime in the future,
There
not so
must.
distant future. Rob, this has been fascinating. Repeat for me again. Where can people find your channels if they're looking for help, if they're looking for resources? Tell us what platforms you're on.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, my name's Rob Odat, which stands for One Day at a Time. I can be found on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, but more importantly, here on YouTube. YouTube is the one place where we have the ability to express our mindset without the constraints of having to squeeze it into a 60-second time frame. And so if you're really looking to quit gambling, come and learn from my story here on YouTube.
That's fantastic. Rob, I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Hopefully, this is one introductory conversation of many more to come as we kind of hopefully explore this a little more on our channel. I appreciate it. And it was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime.